keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
And we are back. We're reporting live from Columbus, Ohio area. Obviously, most of you, if not all of you, are aware of what happened recently here in Columbus. You know, if you're a certain skin color, you're told that others automatically don't trust you or like you or are out to harm you. And more importantly, that without the help of the government, you'll not be able to handle this situation or even your own life. You're incapable of taking care of yourself without a government nanny. Information that might conflict with the assertion is automatically excluded from news media, Pravda, and while other relevant data is twisted to fit the hate and discrimination and envy narrative in order to, yes, prejudice anything to the contrary. Prejudice, racism. Kind of like what's happening with the COVID pandemic. You know, a one-sided conversation, distorting the facts with emphasis on the desired outcome. And sadly, when it comes to the supposed systematic racism, this is the result of years, actually decades, of false narratives, which fill the pockets of those who are called race baiters, buffets the careers of politicians, and separates Americans from one another. We've got racism, we've got COVID, huge in terms of separation of Americans. You have to see the spiritual impact that we're talking about here, because this is a spiritual war with physical manifestations here on planet Earth. And we have the ability to control some of this. And our Lord and Savior, the rest. But we have to earnestly contend for the faith on all areas. Can you imagine the pressure that is put on two participants of different skin color when they meet in public? One of them is afraid to talk to the other, and the other has been trained to look for problems and automatically notes that the other is seemingly avoiding them because of their skin color or bad intentions. Think about that. Think about how that works, how we've been trained to feed the narrative. And then when what happens in Columbus, Ohio, happens in Columbus, Ohio, or in Minnesota, or in California, or Illinois, we shouldn't be surprised. We should expect this. We have government-run schools that teach that life has no meaning, morals are relative, man, not God, is the measure of all things, and the state's your daddy. And look what we have. Look what we have in our society. Some of the children are waking up, and most of them have been brainwashed. Last year, the Columbus mayor, Anthony Ginter, made an official announcement that Columbus, Ohio was definitely one of the cities whose white people are guilty of systemic racism. He then made some major moves, personnel and otherwise, towards that end. What in essence the Democratic mayor actually did was once again raise expectations of a group of people in his city, and he made assurances and promises that could never be met. But BJ, what do you mean never could be met? Well, mainly because systemic racism doesn't exist in Columbus, Ohio. or for that matter, most anywhere in the United States. How can you end, if you get anything out of the program today, get this. How can you end what doesn't exist? How can you end what doesn't exist? And what happens to individuals when their expectations aren't met and never can be met? You're raising expectations of an event that no one can deliver here. The frustrations of a community that's told it cannot function on its own without the help of government, and that people are looking to hurt them on a continual basis because of their skin color. Is there no wonder that emotions run high in certain areas of Columbus? So when these emotions driven by unrealistic expectations run high, frustrations are elevated as promised goals become unattainable. Mr. Anderson, I'm hearing something, I think, from your end. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but we have a guest that's anxious to get in.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let me finish this, and then we'll bring our guest in. So when emotions driven by expectations run high, frustrations elevate as promised goals become unattainable. We now find individuals putting themselves in positions where they can be hurt as a result of these make-believe scenarios and Fox promises. We do have a guest. Who do you have, Mr. Anderson?
I got to unmute myself because you were complaining.
Okay, I got
Tanya.
Tanya. Hi, Tanya. Welcome to Last Call.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're blessed. We're blessed. What's going on?
Well, I have a lot to say about everything you've talked about. So I want to try to make it as short as I can, but get a good point across. I'm going to start off by reading a short letter that I saw on social media. It was written by a white mother who has a biracial son, half black, half white. And here's what she says. This is my son, Sam. He just turned 17. He loves fishing, biking, the ocean, and basketball. Watching him surf might be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He has always wanted a pellet gun, and I've had to explain to him repeatedly why he cannot have one, even though his white friends have one. He's not allowed to wear his hoodie up or have his hands in his pockets when he's out and about. He craves independence, but I am paralyzed with fear every time he walks out the door. We regularly practice what to do if he is ever stopped by the police. I love him with a crazy love that other mamas can appreciate. Now is the time for everyone to speak up and demand change. My children deserve a future as much as every child. This is something, this kind of, I will call this rhetoric. I'm sure this letter was written sincerely from this mother's heart, but this is rhetoric. I've had questions all my life, and let me give you a brief background of myself. I'm biracial. My father was black and my mother's white. I grew up in a black neighborhood. I grew up whenever certain people got in trouble with the law, and I'm just going to be bold and say it because I had questions as an innocent child. I don't know, maybe no one else had at my age, but I was always wondering, why was it when it seems like black individuals get in trouble, they shouldn't be punished for it? And I'm not talking about using guns and killing. I'm just talking about simple punishment for committing a crime that you shouldn't have committed in the first place. So I've had that question all my life. I've never understood that. But this mother here raising her son and the things that she said is so demeaning to an individual, especially to a child. That child grows up thinking because of the color of his or her skin, that everything that happens to them, which would seem to be negative, anything negative in their lives, is because of the color of their skin. And that is simply not true. And I will say there is no such thing as systemic racism. I've had enough. I've had it all my life, and I have had enough of the race card constantly being played because it is just an agenda. And I will boldly say these people who claim to care, they do not care. They have an agenda. It's that simple. And back to the letter of this white mother with her biracial son, that's the worst thing she can teach her child growing up. And I will tell you, because a lot of people don't realize this, the majority of Black families that I grew up around, and a lot of them still today, this is what they teach their children. So their children grow up insecure and thinking that everything bad that happens to them is because of their skin color and not because of consequences from wrong actions they may have committed. And as for the church is such a disappointment in many respects. But it's the same thing. I won't say that happens in all churches. But in some Black churches that I have known of or been associated with, pastors will get up behind the pulpit in their church and preach this same kind of rhetoric. So this is what we have to deal with. On top of the lies that the media portrays and celebrities, honestly, they do not care about it anyway. They have an agenda. And it's an agenda they've had for decades. Yes, they've wanted to have a race war for decades. And right now, I believe we're closer than we've ever been. Ultimately, the agenda comes from the enemy. And he uses those that are unlearned, that are ignorant, and that believe these lies. And a big part of the church participates in that.
Wow.
Yes.
You don't catch me speechless very often. But Tanya, that is so revealing.
Yes, it is. A lot of people do not realize this. I've shared this on occasion with people and they're shocked. What shocks them the most is that this is what parents teach their children in their home.
And it ends up being like a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you look for, you find, right? If you look at the like the kid about behind every rainbow there's a cloud. If you're looking for clouds all the time, you're going to find them because that's what you're looking for.
Exactly. And when I was a child, my parents, I mean, we didn't talk about race. My dad was Black, like I said. My mom was white. We lived in a Black neighborhood, but we didn't talk about race. I was taught that I could grow up and do anything I wanted to do. Race was never discussed. And to be honest, did I experience some racism growing up? Yes, I did. But guess who I experienced it from? It's not the typical rhetoric that you hear on the media. Okay. And I think you get my point. I got made fun of. I got bullied. Walk home from school. My hair would get pulled. I had real long hair and my mom would braid my hair and girls behind me would be teasing me and pulling my hair. So to a certain degree, I grew up kind of an angry person, but not for the reasons that you would expect. Not what you hear on TV. I experienced all of the opposite from the opposite side. Mm-hmm. And I can remember years ago, you may remember this, years ago, what's his name? I just had his name in my mind. He's an actor. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I've forgotten his name. I just had his name in my mind. He's an actor. He's an older gentleman now, Black actor. His voice is very distinguished, but he was on a video one time. I think it was an interview, and he was talking about how the idea of Black History Month, he was chastising that idea. I don't know if you remember that. Is Griffin, what's his name? I can't think of his name.
I can't either. I think I know who you're talking about. What do you mean you were discriminated against? Who discriminated against you?
Well, like I said, I grew up in a Black neighborhood. I was teased and bullied. Because
you were half Black, half white?
Yeah, and I'm imagining my skin color was lighter, all different kinds of things played into it. I didn't act like I was supposed to act. You know, a lot of things play
Okay.
into
Yeah.
it.
Right. I
Yeah.
get that. I get that. Wow. You know, I have to admit, and this is how good the programming is. When you were talking about the lady with her son and couldn't have a gun, and the white kid could have a gun, I'm going,
Yes.
oh my goodness, where's Tanya going with this? Where is she going with this? I guess I should be ashamed of myself for causing this. And then boom, you, you hit us with the truth. It's like, oh, wait a minute. What was I thinking? Stupid. But I was thinking what I was programmed to think, Tanya. And I thank you for bringing that out. That was a great example.
Well,
Go ahead.
many have been programmed to think a certain way. Many have been lied to and they believe the lie. You believe a lie, you receive that lie, and then you begin to walk in that lie.
Mhm.
And that's what we're seeing. It's promoted by families who teach this to their children. It's promoted by political leaders, church leaders. There's a lot more to deal with than what we realize to get past this. And I will say this as well. You know, a number of years ago, we had a president. And I'm thinking to myself, surely the people will not vote this person into office, because I looked at his background. I saw the kind of teaching he had sat under, and I saw the kind of church he had sat under for 21 years with a pastor who cursed America. This is when it started all over. He brought that into the White House, and it has consistently got worse year by year. Here we are right now.
And Tanya, it's going to take good folks like yourself and myself and Mr. Anderson. I'll pat myself on the back to work together and work this out. Here's what I hear in you, and I hear this because I see it myself. You have this incredible hunger for righteousness. Things were wrong when you were growing up, and you were frustrated and you couldn't do anything about them. And now, as you get older and you can manage the situation a lot better, you're going, okay, I got to put things right. And I appreciate that about you. To say what you said today on the program today took a lot of guts. It took a lot of guts because you know what you're facing. You know what you're facing. We, was it Uncle Tom the other day, Mr. Anderson? We found out who Uncle Tom really was. And
Yeah.
Uncle Tom was basically just went through incredible suffering, saving people. And he's not at all who we've been told who Uncle Tom is. But that again, that's what the Pravda does. That's what our education system does. They just preach this hate. They preach this envy. And I don't get why the churches, the corporate churches, don't stand up and say something about it.
They're not educated. They're educated in the wrong system. They go to those seminaries who has been engulfed with Marxism, and they're trained in socialism and social justice. And so now our pastors are misleading because they were misled.
But the truth's available, Kevin.
Of
Mr.
course
Anderson.
it is. And somehow you got to look for it. I mean, you got to go for it. You know, when you go to school, you think you're educated.
Yeah. I thought when I graduated from college that I was educated, and then I got married and had children. Then is when the education started. When you
That's
had those
it.
children.
Yeah. It,
Whew.
it begins there. And
Yep.
then you're in the pulpit, and then you got a group of people around you who tell you what you can and can't say because they're looking at the offering and the plate every Sunday, and how they're going to meet their expenses, and they lose the truth in business.
Good. Any parting words, Tanya? And thank you very much for your participation today.
No, thank you for letting me participate.
Oh, that was excellent, and it was right on. You know, talking about how the family is doing more harm to their kids.
Exactly.
And that might have even come out in this event that we were just talking about earlier in the Columbus shooting. That child has had to be very, very confused about what was right, what was wrong, and what was going on in the world around her. What a pity. What a pity.
Yep. It's a shame.
We're driven by emotions, and that's what we're doing. We're driving people by emotions, emotional pleas, and they're working. They're working against us, but they are working.
Opinions, and yeah, emotion and opinions. That's what people think is truth.
Incredible. Again, thank you very much, Tanya. You've been a blessing to us today, lady.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I like I said, during that first start of that when she first started off, I went, oh my God, I've been caught. I've been a
Yeah.
racist. I've been a racist. I didn't think I was.
Your white guilt.
And yeah. And that's been programmed into us. It's
Well,
just,
and that's even worse in schools today than it used to be, because
yep.
yeah, that's why that that Babylon Bee video I
Mhm.
shared earlier, White Todd's fault. It's they're looking for scapegoats.
Do we have somebody on the other talk line? I don't know whether we've got it. Can't hardly tell. Is there somebody there?
Have you got the
Okay.
volume up?
Yeah, it's up. Evidently not.
I thought I heard a call come in on Skype.
But they may have left.
They got tired of waiting on you.
I got yucky. Yeah. Do we need to take a quick break?
It's hard to run it with one guy in the studio, huh?
Yep. True. We'll have to fix that next week, huh?
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
I'm going to talk a little bit more about Columbus, but there was a great interview that Mr. Humble did from Tennessee Stands that I want to get into you because it's about COVID. It's about manipulation of information, and it's very, very well done. And it's something we're going to put on our naturalfamilyfoundation.com website that you need to listen to. It's how we're being lied to. It's how information is being manipulated. And again, this is just exposing an opposite argument to what is going on with COVID. But before we get into that, maybe even leading into that, we can really speculate that what happened this past Wednesday in Columbus, when a young child's life was abruptly ended, should have actually been expected. And of course, the mayor of Columbus, who's been pouring gasoline on racial tension here in Columbus for quite some time, he responds to this. Again, the video's out. Like the George Floyd video, that's out. This video's out. But Mayor Ginther says we don't yet have all the facts. And he's right. But there is a video there. Half of what you see and nothing you hear. But again, the pyromaniac, the mayor of Columbus, continues to fuel the fire by reminding everyone that emotions, a 16-year-old girl, a child of this community tragically died last night. Then the idiot asked this question. Did Ma'Khia Bryant need to die yesterday? How did we get to where we are today? He says, and then he continues, this is a failure on the part of our community. Some are guilty, but all of us are responsible. You are right, Mayor. Again, this quote coming from the man who is as much responsible for this as anyone else in the Columbus community. If he were any kind of a man at all, he would resign, or better yet, he should be one under investigation and put on administrative leave for the damage he's done to race relationships in Columbus, Ohio. Then Ginther adds that state investigators will determine if the officer in question, who is removed from street duty following the incident, violated policy. Good Lord, folks. comparatively speaking, this policeman should be up for a commendation for going above and beyond the call of duty if you compare him to the mayor. What would have happened?
That's terrible. That's terrible of the mayor. And we can reflect way
He's
back.
playing up to the voters. He is playing up to the voters. He's playing up to a community of voters. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead.
Well, going way back when we were on trial, and we were getting testimonies from the police officers, more or less on our behalf. We followed the protocol when we were out protesting in front of the church.
Yeah, we were protesting in front of the Vineyard Church here in Columbus, Ohio, trying to get the church to become salt and light, trying to get the pastor to speak relevant sermons to the issues of the day. Again, having caused part of the problem themselves. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Well, the officers that testified, the judge blatantly told them that their opinion didn't matter, or their input was not relevant. What the similarity I see in that, when the justice system doesn't support its enforcers, what are the police supposed to do? What are they going to do? Well, the mayor should be supporting the people that are employed under him, kind of, sort of. I mean, isn't he like? Isn't the mayor kind of like the president, who is the what do they call him? He's the head of the military.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Right. He's the chief officer.
Yep.
He's over these people. These people are out doing duty, doing the best job they can. If they're not, it's the mayor's fault. It's not their fault. He ought to be. It's like the principal of a school backing a teacher. Oh, no. I mean, officers aren't always right. Teachers aren't always right. Mayors aren't always right. But the thing is, he's doing a lot of damage to his own officers.
It's a great point. What would have happened if the police hadn't shown up at this domestic dispute?
Oh, I think it would have been a bloody mess.
Again, what we're looking at here, folks, is a leadership issue, or lack thereof. Lack of leadership in government, as exhibited by the Columbus mayor, Joe Biden, and thousands of others, politicians. Leadership in the church, which has acquiesced to the aforementioned government and man. And last but not least, and the most important actually, leadership in the home, which is given up to just about everyone except the fathers in the home, which by design and confirmed by psychologists across the world is critical to children. And by the way, in this particular Columbus community, it's estimated that 75% of the children's homes are fatherless. The young lady that got shot was in a foster home. And all we've heard from was the aunt and the mother. Is there no father here? I think it's very telling.
That other person around.
Yep.
I don't know what his role in the whole thing was. I heard stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
Where is her paternal father?
Right.
What's going on?
Amen. And that should be asked. A family consists of one, and we have to say this now, biologically born, not assigned at birth, biologically born male. And you can tell the difference, by the way. I don't know whether you knew that or not, but you can tell the difference. One biologically born male, one biologically born female, in a lifelong, committed, monogamous relationship with their natural or biological children, biological or adopted children. That is the family. That's what the app is supposed to look like. And when you get away from that, when you get away from that natural order, that natural organization, you start having problems. Every time you go against nature, there's always a rule that you have to pay. It's just that way. And in America, the family is broken.
Nature likes order, and it's always working to get back in order when we mess it up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, there are forces. It's like when a vacuum's created, nature wants to fill it. Well, you create a vacuum when you take a part of that family out, it's going to be filled. But man steps in and says, nah, I can fill that for you, nature. Nature's laws don't stop, by the way. We just think they do.
I have a special break video for you.
Okay, let's do that. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson,
But
your last.
that's not going to solve the problem, because you're still going to have people who are ending up gay or thinking that they are, or doing this stuff, because we don't have a healthy and proper appreciation and respect for the family, and because we aren't keeping dads at home, because we're not drilling into people, incentivizing in the tax system, reminding people in popular culture that the nuclear family is the best engine of healthy, happy, productive people.
Okay.
That's my point.
Okay.
And that, for me, is a much more powerful prophylactic against people ending up gay or bisexual or trans or whatever than anything else.
Well, but that's kind of like saying if there's no father at home, it's possible that criminals will break into the home. So you don't want to let the criminals off the hook. And on the other hand,
Absolutely,
if there were a father at
but
home,
you left the door open with the sign
criminal-
over it saying, you know, come in and take what you want.
So it sounds like then, you know, if you are, you know, a serious Christian and particularly Catholic, you buy into the idea, the biblical idea, that there's really no such thing as a gay person, that God doesn't create gay people.
No, well, actually, the latest psychology, not that.
Mr. Anderson, we have that clip from Dr. Clinton. Do we have that handy?
We do.
Okay.
I knew that was a little off when he was talking about gay, but the fact that, you know, bringing Milo on and he's gone through a lot of changes. The fact that he recognizes the need for a family and the father in the house, I thought was a pretty powerful little piece.
Yeah. I tried to get him on our program, but had limited success. Go ahead.
He's hard to get a hold of. He is a pretty busy guy. We're looking for the video you want with
Clinton, Dr. Clinton, about the family.
Okay, it'll take me a second here to bring that up.
Okay. That's okay. I this week, WTVN Radio, which is a local broadcast here for Midwest in Ohio, was talking about this issue. And they were all over the place and talking about all kinds of things. I tried to call in. Actually, I got a hold of the call screener, and I told the call screener that we really need
Thursday. So glad you're joining us.
We are. Let's get right to our next guest. He is Dr. Tim Clinton, the co-author of Take It Back, Reclaiming Biblical Masculinity, the Heart and Strength of Being a Man. Thank you for joining us today. Dr. Clinton, this is really, the man is under attack right now. There is no way to avoid that. He really is under attack right now.
Listen, great to be with both of you. And this topic couldn't be more important in our culture. You know, you guys know this. Men had a big beat down. I mean, they're basically seen as buffoons, disengaged fathers, porn addicts, terrible husbands. They've now added a whole new piece to it. They're saying it's just not men, it's masculinity. Masculinity is toxic. We need to reprogram every male out there. But I'll tell you what, could you imagine what would happen if men would take their rightful place in their families and culture? We could help turn some things around right now. We need men to step up into this moment.
That is the point that we are making with naturalfamilystrong.com. That is the point. The family is the foundation of all society. Societies cannot exist without the family. They can't exist without the natural family. And in the natural family, there is a natural order. From a Christian standpoint, that is God, Jesus Christ. This is a vertical relationship. God, Jesus Christ, man, woman, children. It is a vertical relationship, folks. Up and down. It's been flattened out, like what happened in Rome, like what happened in Greece. And men, as I indicated earlier in the program, has basically advocated from their role. Hey, Dad, kids got soccer today. You're sitting there with your favorite adult beverage and you're watching the football game. And Mama says, you want me to go ahead and take them and you can just sit back and relax? Oh, sure, go ahead. And then next thing you know, something else is happening where you relinquish the education of your children to the government-run schools. You relinquish the morals to the corporate church. Bingo. I just wanted to say what we're talking about is right on, because we're talking about the male, the key issue here. And look at today's American home. Where are the leaders? Dr. Clinton continues.
Doctor, there's no question. It's a conversation I've been having with people that listen to my program for 10 years. We need more fathers in America. We need more dads to step up. We need more dads in the home because that's the missing link. Nothing against single moms. They're doing.
Stop. Wait a minute. What? Why do you have to apologize for that? You're saying the men need to be in the home, but it's okay if they're not in the home. Do you understand what he just said? Disagree with that statement totally. Burns me. Okay.
A great job and they're holding down what they can. But fathers, that nuclear family is so important, and we need more fathers stepping up and taking responsibility for their families, right or wrong.
Right. I tell you, one of the things we wanted to do was to write a piece of work here that would encourage and speak hope and life and healing into men. The research is profound. You would think this, if masculinity was toxic, that kids growing up without a dad, I guess, presumably would be better off than those who have them. But the research is completely contrary to all that. Kids who are growing up without a dad, for example, are much more depressed, much more prone to peer pressure. They're more anxious. They're even more criminal. They struggle with mental health issues and so much more. I mean, just think about it. If a dad was present and understood how much he mattered, stepping up and into the lives of his kids at another level would change our families. But, you know, hey, you got a media culture out there who it doesn't fit the narrative, so they want to wipe it out. They want to take men out of the picture and try to just recast what the nuclear family and everything's all about.
But how do we change this culture now that it has become a part of the mainstream? This is what I even see women who have their door opened by a man and they post on social media, I'm never going out with this guy again. He thinks I can't even open my own door. How did we get to this place?
It's crazy. Again, it's the narrative that's out there, Tudor. I agree with you. I think we come back and just really take a look at what's happening in culture. Most people want and love the men in their life. The women I talk to, they want their men to be strong. They appreciate them being protectors and providers and showing kindness. They want them to be involved dads because they know that the gifts of a father are unique. My dad was a World War II veteran. Tom Brokaw called them the greatest generation ever. My dad was a pastor, but my dad was probably the kindest man I've ever met in my life. The gifts that my dad gave to me were gifts that my mother couldn't give to me. You know, it's interesting when you look at the research, a dad often is involved in action love. He likes to get outside and, you know, wrestle with his kids and helping them figure out how to be industrious and different things like that. But when he's present and actively involved in the lives of his children, his kids benefit so much. Tudor, we've got to get out there and just say, hey, listen, men really are unique, and let's look at the research. Let's look at the science behind all of it.
Mm-hmm. Kids need moms and dads. And honestly, to make a comment on Tudor's remark there, women saying, I won't go out with the guy again because he opened the door for me. You don't deserve to go out with him again if that's your attitude. That's number one. Number two, you talk about anecdotal evidence, doctor, and something I've done some research on. I want you to weigh in on this. When it comes to school shooters, these mass tragedy events, almost every one of these young men that are shooters come from either fatherless homes or homes where the father is basically absent emotionally almost completely. It comes down to almost every one of these people. So what you said rings very true to me. You can say what you want about masculinity being bad, but when you take the father out of the home, bad things happen.
Steve, we found that when we looked at the research, you're dead on the money. Those children typically have no dads. It was interesting, too. We found out that the common denominator on death row, you know what that denominator was? No dad.
No dads.
No dad.
Yeah.
When dads are present, you're seeing an uptick in academic.
That's the common denominator in prisons in general. Broken families. Go interview somebody in a prison. Talk to them about their families. You're going to hear this. For the most part, no fathers. Micaiah, who was killed here in Columbus, where was her father? Not in the home.
Performance. When dads are present, you're seeing stronger male and female identities in their children. When dads are present, you're seeing kids who are less susceptible to peer pressure, kids who do much better when it comes to mental health and so much more. It's just plain simple science. And even more than that, it's what the family is all about. We don't need less masculinity. We need more. We need men who will model the kind of masculinity that teaches us how to love and be loved. The kind of masculinity that means, hey, listen, I'm here for you as your dad. The kind of masculinity that says, I'll stand up and fight for you. I'm your dad. I love you.
Well, let's hope that a lot of this, going out there and talking about this, getting these conversations out there in the world, in the nation, in these high crime communities, as we're facing all of these calls for police to step down, we're ignoring the root cause of these problems. We're ignoring these communities that so desperately need love and family to come back. And let's hope that these conversations are at least getting out there and getting to one person who can just make that spread, take that seed and spread that seed and make it grow into a bigger conversation across the nation. Dr. Tim Clinton, we appreciate having you here. He is the author of Take It Back, Reclaiming Biblical Masculinity, the Heart and Strength of Being a Man. Such an important topic. Thank you so much for being on today.
We have to interview this guy. We have to get him on the show. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. We can't have these conversations. Where can you have these conversations? In your church? Oh, no. No. In public schools? No. Where? With news media? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right here on Last Call.
Well, yeah, but in the major news media, I mean, the ones that have several million, just other than the million that we have, Mr. Anderson, right?
Yeah.
How did, by the way, naturalfamilystrong.com, if you haven't already, please go to our site. By the way, you can pick up this video at the site. You will be able to. But there's a pledge there. Please sign that pledge. It's not a monetary commitment, but it's a personal commitment to this nation. We cannot do this.
And to your own families.
Yeah, true. It's a reminder. It's a reminder of where you need to be. Also, how did we get to this point? Boy, there's a lot of factors there. But it's just like in the Garden of Eden, is where Satan, by the way, started to attack the family. That's the first thing he attacked. Adam and Eve, the family. Yeah. Break them up. Divide. Accuse. Started there. in the garden and hasn't stopped. Satan knows the power of the family, but he doesn't want you to know it. He's got you. COVID's more important. Okay? COVID is more important. Or educating your child in the world's ways is more important. Getting a secure job is more important. No. Like I said earlier in the program, I didn't start learning until I started my family. And then it was exponential. It was incredible. I just every day, and I still have children, still learning, still have family, still learning. Every day, you learn something new that you would never learn from a book or talking to somebody that has children. Until you have them, until that love touches your heart, it gives you just a totally new perspective. Again, my heart goes out to Micaiah's mother and father. I guess I haven't heard him in the situation, but I'm sure he still has affections toward his daughter. Horrible thing to happen. Horrible. We need to get back to basics here in America, folks. Do we need to take a quick break, Mr. Anderson, and then close this out?
Okay.
Got
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
I'm never ready for the volume on that. Boom! I love
I
it.
wondered why you were getting up off the floor.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I want to give a nod to our friends in Montana. Montana has an incredible. But let me read this first. Under the beauty of the big sky, we invite you to explore the last best place, Montana. Ideas to inspire adventure. Unparalleled in beauty and wonder that defines the West, Montana has captured the hearts of visitors since Lewis and Clark traveled up the Missouri River. For generations, Montanans have raised their families enjoying these lands, just as my wife Susan and I have, hunting, fishing, backpacking, and taking all this state treasures that has to offer. Whether you imagine yourself knee-deep in crystal clear water stream or soaking in the splendor of Montana sunset on a quiet evening, Montana-made moments await on you. On behalf of all Montanans, we invite you to explore and enjoy our big sky country. Greg Gianforte, the new governor of Montana. So when you think of Montana, you do think of open spaces, conservative, low-keyed, and just an American state, right? Well, based on what I know, and I've talked to several folks there in Montana, it is far from a conservative oasis. We might think that it is, especially when it comes to the family, more specifically the natural family. I hear every week about how the new governor, who showed so much promise, has not only lowered the bar, but it appears that he has turned his back on the families in his state. That should not be, folks, and it must change. Montana is one of the worst states in America, probably the second or third worst when it comes to child protective services and taking children out of homes, especially, my subjective opinion here, Christian homes. So I want to thank to all the folks, and they're growing, and the Niemeyers in particular. Oh my goodness, have they done a great job in today's America that are fighting for the family, and especially those good folks in Montana, which has just incredible problems with their, and I use the term loosely, child protective services. I salute all you, but pray for victory and protection. God bless you all. And just let us know how we can help here at the Natural Families Foundation. Wow. I'm really pleased with those folks, what they're doing. We talked a little bit about critical race theory. And basically what that what that means by definition is that the law and legal institutions in the United States are inherently racist insofar as they function to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities between whites and non-whites, specifically or especially African Americans. By the way, the state of Ohio Department of Education proposed education department rule would prioritize funding for critical race theory grant applications. A resolution to condemn racism and to advance equality and opportunity for Black students, Indigenous students, and students of color. The State Board of Education hereby adopts the following preambles and resolutions. As our nation grapples with the hard truths of racism and inequality, we are listening with broken hearts and engaging with determined spirits, yada, 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 yada. Anyway, on July 14th of last year, the Ohio School Board, over all the Ohio school boards, passed this action. 1 year later, action is now being taken in Ohio against critical race theory. On Monday, April 19th, Dan Reginald filed a lawsuit against the Ohio Board of Education, specifically members Kohler, Johnson, Manchester, Miranda, and Collins. Good for him. Not to do is to do, right, folks? Not to say is to say. This is good news. Somebody is standing up and fighting for the family. The natural family is the cornerstone of all civilization. Can you imagine having gotten here from two people? And scientists are coming to the revelation that it did start with two people. They've got the female thing figured out, and they're going to figure out the male thing from an origination standpoint. We already know it from a natural standpoint. Societies, can you imagine two people to 7.6 billion? How did that happen? Lions, bears, tigers, oh my. Would have been eaten immediately. Hey, Eve just had a kid. Let's go down and have dinner, right? Didn't work that way, did it? Why? Because of the strength of the family. Societies must do all they can to maintain, nurture, promote, and protect the critical family unit. The moral fabric of society is obliged to protect the family representation, and virtuous social contracts act like constraints surrounding and providing for its support. They should. Today they don't. When the fabric is torn, which it is, and our social contracts become immoral, working against the traditional family, then society as a whole is threatened with extinction. For society to survive, the fabric must be mended by readjusting the social constraints, the contracts created by public opinion, which we're trying to do here, to once again favor the age-old natural family prototype. Tanya says the actor's name is Morgan Freeman, and yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Institutions within a society are obliged to acknowledge the validity and legality of original natural family model and build their institutional foundations upon and around it. This means that the business community, news media, education providers, entertainment, government, and the church should all do whatever is necessary to support the natural family, as if their organizational lives depended on it, which they do. This is the key. You can end divorce. You can end extreme taxation. You can end gay marriage individually. But they're all part of the attack on the natural family. Government dictating to you what you'll do with regards to a mask and medical treatments is not providing support to the family. As a matter of fact, it has divided the family. The scare tactics, the social distancing. Oh, you don't want to meet grandma today because, something bad will happen to grandma because of you, even though you don't have anything. It's assumed that you do. Father's roles. A father can't say, no, don't wear a mask today.
There was a father put in jail, I think, for calling his daughter.
Yep.
A daughter. And I don't know the whole story behind that. I think it was Canadian, but it's coming to America soon.
Northern exposure, yeah. And what Dr. Clinton said, within the family, there must be a clear male leader. Father, grandfather, uncle, male elder cousin. And that leader must come from the family's lineage. Leadership should not come from the church, the state, or any other key influencer in a society. The stability of the family rests on the extent to which the family leadership is able to keep itself from being threatened or co-opted by outside influences that are not fully supportive of the natural family. When traditional roles within the family become challenged, are made unclear or altered, welcome to today's America, a hostile environment is created that threatens the strength and viability of the family. And folks, as goes the family, so goes the church, so goes the government, so goes the education, so goes everything. So goes the nation, as goes the family.
Well,
And again,
sadly, it is part of the agenda. It's the Marxist agenda for the New World Order, as some people call it. I mean, the destruction of the family is a communist plot.
Yep. And the homosexual goal as well, to get what they want. They don't want equality. They do not want that. They want to rule over you. They want you to be where they are. They want to drag you down to their level. And to do that, they have to destroy the home. The key role of any good society is to develop and maintain laws with a foundation rooted in the morally strong value system that has the natural family's benefit as its primary purpose for existing. Once again, it is critically important that the business community, media, education, entertainment, government, and the church should all base their written and spoken agreements, commitments, and understanding on how to be a moral role model in society on this primary purpose. In short, like I said before, as goes the family, so goes the nation. End of story. And when the family goes, it's going to be the end of this nation. There ought to be a law. There ought to be a law.
There's too many of those.
That protects. There ought to be a vision then that says, defines the natural family, what we define it, one man, one woman, etc. Note its critical importance and do everything they can to maintain, promote its existence. In this case, repair it. Hey, it sounds like it's time's up. This is BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This has been your last call. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for all our listeners. And God bless all of you and Godspeed.
Join us next week for Last Call with BJ Edwards.